thank you all for coming. In just a few days, we'll reach the 1-year mark from the day Kim Gardner abruptly resigned from her position as the St. Louis Circuit Attorney. It just so happened that on that very day, we were headed to court to enforce a subpoena that was issued to compel the Circuit Attorney's Office to provide the documents we needed to finish our audit work at that time. That subpoena and the petition to enforce it were necessary because of Gardner's numerous efforts to ignore and delay the release of the records we requested. While she may have hoped her resignation would bring an end to her involvement in the audit, I said it then and I'll say it again today. Her resignation did not negate the duty we have to thoroughly assess the performance of the St. Louis Circuit Attorney's Office under Kim Gardner's leadership. As I also said, it's important that Kim Gardner be made to answer for her time as Circuit Attorney one way or another. I'm here today because it's now clear that Kim Gardner does not want to answer for her time as Circuit Attorney. She's continued her pattern of behavior with her unwillingness to be transparent or accountable. Kim Gardner knows we are trying to finish the audit. She knows there are questions that only she can answer. She knows she has the answer the people of St. Louis, that the people of St. Louis deserve. But to date, not only has she made no effort to respond to our requests, it appears she has willfully evaded our many efforts to obtain information that only she can provide. In our attempts to reach her, we have sent a letter. We've contacted multiple attorneys who have or are representing her. We've contacted former colleagues of hers in the General Assembly, made dozens of unreturned phone calls, and made multiple unsuccessful attempts to serve a subpoena on her through a process server. But rest assured, we've not given up our efforts to find her and hold her accountable. Let me be clear. Kim Gardner's refusal to accept responsibility for her time in office won't prevent us from completing our audit work. Our audit staff are in the process of preparing a thorough report that examines most aspects of the Circuit Attorney's Office. And if we have to, we can and we will release that report without her cooperation. While Kim Gardner has been obstructing the progress on this audit for years, I do want to thank current Circuit Attorney Gabe Gore, who's provided the kind of cooperation we never saw under his predecessor. It was Gabe Gore who finally opened the doors to the Circuit Attorney's Office and allowed our audit staff to work on site for the first time. So thank you to Circuit Attorney Gore for his commitment to transparency and for working in good faith with us to complete our audit. But even with the willing cooperation of the current Circuit Attorney and the outstanding work our audit staff has done with the information they've received, it's still expected that Kim Gardner come forward and make herself available to answer the questions that provide clarity about her decisions as Circuit Attorney. The truth is the exhaustive list of ways we attempted to speak with her to provide this information should have never been necessary. In no way should this have reached a point where a subpoena or a public press conference was necessary. She should have come forward willingly to give answers to our auditors and to the people of St. Louis, who deserve to have the complete picture of her time in office. Because she has refused to do that, the audit of the Circuit Attorney's Office remains the only review of a city office that is yet to be completed. The St. Louis Board of Aldermen, at the urging of the people of St. Louis, asked my predecessor, Auditor Nicole Galloway, to begin this process 6 years ago. And in that time, every report has been completed, more than 20 in total, with the exception of one. And the reason for that delay is undeniable. It's Kim Gardner herself. So the reason we're here today is twofold. First, to Kim Gardner, I want to say it's not too late to do the right thing. You swore an oath to the people of St. Louis. You may have resigned, but your resignation does not end your responsibility to answer to the people of St. Louis about your time in office. I know you will see this. Do the right thing. Second, to the public, if Kim Gardner won't do the right thing, we need your help. Have you seen Kim Gardner? Do you know where she is? If we can find her, we will subpoena her and ask the questions that the people of St. Louis deserve to have answered. So please, if you have information regarding the whereabouts of former Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner, reach out to us at our whistleblower hotline by calling 1-800-347-8597 or email us at moaudit@auditor.mo.gov. Thank you, and I'll take any questions you might have.
Auditor Fitzpatrick, I know that the report hasn't been released yet, but can you discuss any of the preliminary findings at all, how this is looking?
Sure. I mean, given the ongoing nature of the audit, and we certainly want to give former Circuit Attorney Gardner the opportunity to answer questions that we have about some of the things that we found during the audit. What I can tell you is that we have identified instances of inappropriate expenditures. We've identified issues of mismanagement, and those are the things that we want to speak with Kim Gardner about prior to releasing the report.
If you can release the report without her, why not release the report? What questions do you have? Would they change the findings, or is this just your office is obligated to include her in this report because it was done while she was in office?
Well, there are several significant concerns, relating to a variety of management issues at the office. As I mentioned, there are expenditures that appear inappropriate. We want to give her the opportunity to explain those. If there's an explanation for them, what we have learned throughout the audit itself, through interviewing current and former employees of the Circuit Attorney's Office, is that during her administration, Kim Gardner herself was very involved in making nearly every decision for the office. And so when you have a principal in that office that was not delegating maybe as some other office holders have in the past, getting them to speak to their decisions is a part of providing the best report that we can. At the end of the day, if we don't end up talking to her, the report will come out. We'll have to draw conclusions with the information that we have, and the report will be issued with that information and without the benefit of her providing us answers to the questions that we have for her.
How long are you willing to wait?
This audit is going to come out this year, one way or the other. So, 2024 is the year this report will come out. It began in 2021 under Auditor Galloway, and basically was stagnant for 2 years due to the lack of cooperation, mostly to the lack of cooperation of the Circuit Attorney's Office. When I took office in January of last year, it was a priority to get that audit out the door, and we've continued to prioritize that each day. And due to the obstruction, here we are.
Can you be more specific about when in 2024?
What I'm telling you, I'm committing that the audit will be out before the end of this year, one way or the other, with or without her cooperation.
Do you know she's in the state that there's criminal or civil liability on her part as a result of the findings of your audit?
Listen, that's something that, given where we are in the process of developing the report and the fact that we have not spoken to her, I can't comment on that specifically. What I can say is that, we have identified inappropriate expenditures and management issues that we want to give her the opportunity to explain, and we think that the best outcome would be for her to be able to have that opportunity and to talk to us about it so that we can understand if there is some explanation we're not aware of for why some of those decisions were made and why some of the expenditures were made.
Auditor, do you know if she's still in the state?
We do not. We, as I mentioned, we have attempted through a process server to serve her with a subpoena. They made multiple attempts over the course of many weeks to get that subpoena served, but have been unable to locate her anywhere in the St. Louis area. And that's why we're here today to ask for any information that anyone may have on her whereabouts.
Her husband is the director of track and field at Clemson University. Have you reached out to the state of South Carolina or Clemson at all?
We're aware of her husband's occupation. We've been in contact with many people. I don't know if specifically we've been in touch with Clemson or not, but I know that we've spoken with other places where where she has participated academically, such as SLU, and the addresses that we have on file for her residence, things like that, are the places we've looked so far.
Seems like she's writing a handbook on how to avoid an audit. I mean, it's been over a year. She knows she's under an audit. It seems like maybe it's just time.
Well, the audit will come out one way or the other. So there's no avoiding the release of the audit report. And frankly, I mean, the process of the progress of the audit has gotten to the point where, in the last couple of months, has been the time where we've been really looking for Kim and trying to get an interview set up with her. And what I would say is that I'm sure if somebody's willing to leave the state and never return, then that might be an effective way of not having to talk to us. But we're going to continue to look for. We have not given up on that yet. And like I said, at some point we will issue the report with or without her cooperation, but we do think that it's worth waiting a little longer in hopes of finding her and having the opportunity to speak with her to conclude the audit.
Do you think there is any responsibility or blame for the delay from your predecessor in office, or do you think that that your predecessor was also making the efforts to reach out to her, or did she just let it kind of fall off?
I think that the office could have been more aggressive at securing information prior to my time here. There were no subpoenas issued, and after a year and a half, I made the decision that we were going to issue subpoenas. So that's a question that, really it shouldn't have come to that. It shouldn't have been a situation where a subpoena had to have been issued. But if the question is, could they have been more aggressive under the prior administration to try to bring this thing to conclusion, I think they probably could have. But that does not, I don't want to shift any blame really, because the reality of the situation is the Circuit Attorney's Office should have been as forthcoming then as they are now under the leadership of Gabe Gore.
Have you heard from either your people who have worked in this office or other audits that you have done this level of effort to avoid participating in an audit?
Well, I've been here a year and 4.5 months, or year and 4 months at this point, and I can just speak to my time in office that this is a unique circumstance. I don't think that the office, and speaking with the auditors who've worked here for a long time, has ever gone to the level of holding a press conference to try to locate somebody. There have been instances where somebody has shown up and pled the fifth, and when being asked questions, but I'm not aware of an instance of having not been able to locate somebody to be interviewed for the audit.
Has her staff been forthcoming?
Has her staff been forthcoming? I believe that her staff that we've interviewed have mostly answered our questions that they knew the answers to. I mean, there have been a lot of I don't knows, I think, in some of those, or you'd have to ask Kim type answers probably, but so far, I mean, everybody else, and we did have to issue a subpoena for a different individual that was in the administration with former Circuit Attorney Gardner, but that subpoena was successfully served and that interview did take place. Beyond
Was that
that,
with Chris Hinckley?
what's that?
Was that with Chris Hinckley?
Was that? I don't think so. I think it was somebody else. It was, so it was a different name. So I mean, we have had to issue another subpoena, but that was successfully served. That interview took place, and otherwise, I think people have been cooperative.
How many have been issued to her?
Well, we issued the first one to her office, to the Circuit Attorney's Office, with her as the leader of it, as the Circuit Attorney back in 2023 prior to her resignation. And we had communicated to her counsel that because they'd only partially complied with it, we were going to, if we didn't get a full response by May 16th, we were going to go to court to petition the court to enforce a subpoena on her. And that was the day, we had the petition prepared to be filed, and that was the day she ended up resigning from office. So we decided to wait until the new Circuit Attorney came in and work with them, and Gabe Gore has been cooperative. So there was the first one then, and then we issued another subpoena a couple of months ago that we attempted to serve her through a process server, but that effort failed on multiple occasions. And so the date for appearance that was in that subpoena has now passed, and so we're issuing a new subpoena today that we hope to be able to serve on her if we can get information about her whereabouts.
So you've reached out to her legal.
Audit, and what is the end hope for this? If you have criminal charges, to hand those over to someone else?
I don't have the numbers for the cost. I mean, what I can tell you is that this was an audit that was requested by the Board of Aldermen, so at the end of an audit, we send a bill to the city and they pay the cost. So the city of St. Louis taxpayers are the ones footing the bill for the obstruction that's taking place here. And if you want a specific amount on the cost to date, we can work that up. I don't know that we have that available for you in this room, but we can get that answer for you if you'd like for us to. And in terms of the goal, an audit is not like a prosecution, right? It's a mission of finding the truth and getting answers for the people of the city. That was what we were asked to do 6 years ago. And so I don't want to sit here and say, no, the goal is not to have criminal charges. The goal is to let the facts lead us where they may. And if the result of that is criminal charges, then that is what it is. That's a decision that we don't make. That's a decision for prosecutors to make. We just want to give the people of the city of St. Louis the best information that we can about her time in office and complete the audit report in the way that is customary, which includes having received information and interviewed the person in charge of the organization being audited.
It says you've reached out to her legal representation. Are those attorneys who currently represent her or previously represented her?
We reached out to the attorney that was representing her during her time as circuit attorney on the audit. So all of the communication on the audit leading up to her resignation was being passed through an outside law firm that she had retained to represent her through the audit. So that was another expense to the city taxpayers, that it was unusual. Most of the time we deal with a liaison in the office we're auditing. She hired outside counsel, so we reached out to that attorney, and our understanding is he is no longer representing her since she left office. He referred us to another attorney in Washington, D.C., who we reached out to and have not received a response from. So we, again, that's multiple attorneys that we've attempted to contact her through, and at this point have not received a response from one of them, knowing where she is or being able to accept service on her behalf. Any other questions?
Unrelated, does your office believe that state taxpayers should pay for the defense of the state senators being sued over their social media posts relative to the Chiefs parade?
You know, that's a good question. I'm not an expert on legal defense fund law. I don't know if there's any precedent for that as to whether or not the Attorney General's office has defended legislators for public comments in the past. That's a decision for the Attorney General to make. He has the sole authority to determine what is and is not, appropriate for the legal expense fund. And I would also say that as, the entity that would audit the Attorney General's office, generally I reserve, comment or judgment on something that could be the subject of an audit moving forward. So, at this time, it's a management decision for the Attorney General. And, if and when we conduct an audit of the Attorney General's office again, that could potentially be something that would be looked at.
Any update on the audit of the City Justice Center?
Well, that's not an audit. We received a whistleblower complaint, so we were conducting an investigation, as a response to a whistleblower complaint. I can tell you that there was a significant delay in receiving, being able to talk to the DFOB members that we were wanting to speak to as part of that investigation. I think that has now occurred, and that the investigative report is in the process of being drafted for my review, and at that point, that information will become public after I have a chance to review it and ask any internal questions. We'll put out a letter to the Justice Center on the investigation, and then that will be that.
Do you have a timeline on when that will be out?
I would imagine that that's probably in the next several weeks. I think the report stayed, I think I was told it's a pretty lengthy report that is going to be coming to me to review. And the process there is we generally will send a closure letter to the Justice Center or whoever the entity being investigated is. That would be a public document, and then in certain cases we'll make an investigative summary public as well. Generally, the report could potentially become an audit work paper, which is a closed record, so we don't release the full report, but we would try to get as much information as we reasonably can while being compliant with the law to the public. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.